the light from these two larger stars, but not the intensified radiation, because of the distance. You see, the two larger stars are young, waxing stars, and they give out intensified radiation, while Proxima, the third star, is smaller and a middle-aged star, so it gives out a modified, highly intensified vibratory radiation, which has a very different effect in the formation and advancement of a civilization, because it does affect the brain.
I would presume then that Meton is in a higher dimension than Scylla.
Yes, in a higher vibratory rate and very much farther advanced, and has a civilization which occupies all 7 planets in that system. Ed. But it is in the same physical dimension.
To get back to the motherships or city ships, some cigar-shaped, and 5 miles long. How were these constructed out in space?
Constructed in space. Yes, but we don't talk about construction, we say they are created. They were created in the atmosphere of the planet. All the components were ferried up to her, to be put together in space. This was done more than 65 million years ago. It goes right back in the history of the solar system, when Venus was alive. Ed. Habitable in the 3rd dimension. Scientists of Venus in those days detected that the Sun was a variable star, ed. Irregular frequency, so they prepared to move out into space, and they built the vast motherships to ferry all the people and as much as possible of the flora and fauna away from the planet to the Earth, which was the nearest neighbor. The scientists recognized the Sun was a visible star, with maximum and minimum periods of sunspot cycles, which happens to this day, but at certain epochs in time it expands. Now the Sun is expanding and contracting all the time. It is pulsating like a heart, but at certain epochs it expands out more, in intensified radiation. Now this is what happened to Venus, and being closer to the Sun her seas had dried out, and what little fauna remained, and all the flora, were destroyed. And then of course the dinosaurs, which had dominated the Earth, were also destroyed through the intensified radiation. Thus the great civilization from Venus, which we call the mother planet, was able to get away from Venus, and landed on Earth in the Moon, as way stations. So there we have the beginning of highly intelligent human life on this planet, because we were fathered by men from outer space. Certainly not descended from the primates of this planet, but in fact from Cro-Man, an unadvanced human being, who created the great civilization of Atlantis, which, of course, was eventually destroyed. The civilization from Venus decided to leave Earth owing to the harsh nature of the variable Sun and move to a neighboring system that was more conducive to their way of life and thinking. They discovered Proxima Centauri, which was a star similar to the Sun only much older and therefore a stable star. They moved to Meton, which is now the home planet because it is very similar to the mother planet, Venus, in atmospheric conditions, distance from the star, and also, the more important of all, the higher vibratory rates, which is more compatible to an advanced civilization and consciousness. They had bases on the Moon, Mars and Earth, which they still visit. The Venus people left a section of their civilization here on Earth to look after the planet and advance the mentality and consciousness of the indigenous people of this planet, which they are in the process of doing.
Did they have anything to do with the age of Lemuria and Atlantis?
Yes, definitely with Atlantis. Atlantis was, of course, their main base, and they also had a base in South America. Some of the Incas are descendants of the space people. Now, in the region of the Andes there used to be a very tall, fair race of people, many redheads, and these people were from Venus. They remained there until the great upheavals of Atlantis, which resulted in the Andes being pushed up by volcanic eruptions and for the volcanic evolution of the planet generally. So what was once a very fertile area became barren and mountainous, as it is to this day. But you still have certain buildings that remain, and also under the sea. Some of the pyramids still remain in Central America, and these are the most important ones because they are very beautiful and vast, and there is one pyramid which has just been uncovered by archaeologists who thought it was a mountain. The Spaniards built a cathedral on the top. It was covered in trees and grass, and the excavations are now revealing a pyramid.
Where do the rest of the Earth people come from if only a small portion came from Venus?
The majority of people here on Earth are indigenous, with a certain percentage from the home planet Venus who had stayed here when the main civilization moved out from Venus before going on to Proxima Centauri. They remain to look after the planet, and also for educational purposes for the native people, which of course is being done to this day. So we're here to inform people of the truth of their origin. Also to bring Venus back to life by feeding the atmosphere with algae, which creates the storms, the rain and the lightning, the volcanic eruptions, and the life. And also to form the seas again, because Venus was originally covered with vast seas, as is Meton. That is why Akon's civilization moved out from Earth to Meton, because it is very similar to what Venus was in the past, islands and seas, with thick atmosphere, which filters the radiation, and above all has a higher vibratory rate for the advancement of a higher civilization, and particularly for the advancement of a consciousness into the fourth dimension. They have also come back to create bases on the Moon and Mars. They can bring back to life Mars as well as Venus, and this they plan to do since their main work throughout the galaxy is to prepare star systems for human habitation.
How would this tie in with the information that the sun is dying?
The sun is dying, but we don't talk about age, it is simply a metamorphosis. It is becoming cooler, so something has to be done about it. It is going to be a double star system since Jupiter is a forming star. Jupiter will have a starburst in the very near future, and we'll then have two stars in the skies of Earth. As the sun cools down, Jupiter will heat up.
How long do you think the Earth people have been in existence?
The indigenous people of Earth go back to the time of the dinosaurs. Before the demise of the dinosaurs, there was a very small colony of humankind, as there was also a very small colony of mammals, and they were not affected by the intensified radiation because they took refuge in caves and escaped the radiation by going underground. This was instinctive, and it was the same with the other mammals. But the giant creatures had nowhere to escape from the intensified radiation. The ultraviolet destroyed the vegetation, so they had no food and became extinct. The mammals were intelligent enough to go underground and then lived on other life. Now many of our race today are descendants of these people from Venus. Generally they are not conscious of the fact that they are here to advance and educate the indigenous peoples of this planet, but many have had a race memory which has been activated by certain events, material in a book, or seeing a spaceship in the sky. They have suddenly realized this is their purpose and that this is what their life is all about, and they are here for a reason.
To come back to Akron's spacecraft, when he visited you, did his craft create the thunderstorms?
Not always, sometimes. This is a very interesting question. The thunderstorm, particularly the hailstorm, which I described in my book, was quite natural. But it has happened in the past and very recently that his spaceship has created thunderstorms. This is due to the fact that when she come into the condensation level of our atmosphere, the heat field around the ship condenses the molecules of the atmosphere into cloud, and the result is that the gravity field retains the cloud around the ship, spinning it around in its lines of force. You can actually see this. This is what we call an inorganic cloud because it is created by the spaceship. As she moves, the cloud goes with her, and we have actually photographed this cloud effect with the spaceship in the middle. You can actually see the glow of the ship in the cloud. The Air Force takes infrared photographs of such a perfectly circular and rotating cloud with the glow in the middle of the ship,